Ooh, the lights are going down. Hi everybody, thank you for coming to do this. It's really fucking nice of you all. Kind of amazing. It's not my goal to get through life losing body parts every few years, but that seems to be what's happening. So, there's a process this time where maybe we don't lose a few. And I'm really pleased by the range of people that are here and the performers. Some of you guys I've known a really, really long time, and that's fucking lovely. And it's been such a strange time, culturally very, very strange, and in my family very strange. Lots of losses and lots of odd blank things happening, people dying and disappearing who just should not do that. So easy to feel the darker side of things. So really nice tonight to anticipate that it might be some fun, or we might have a little fun. So I'm going to introduce David Isaacson first, and David, at the old Cabaret Voltaire, for those of you with a memory of Chicago from the late 80s and 90s, the old Cabaret Voltaire space, me and Jen and Stefan went there to talk to him about renting the back room for a theater, and he wanted way more money than we ever even imagined theater would cost. And then he said, but really I don't need you, because we already have these people coming from Michigan, and they're gonna pay more money than you. And we said, okay. And so that turned into Theater Oobleck, so they would be in the back, and we would be in the front on a tiny little stage, and we would meet at the coffee place there, and we'd kind of talk, and different people would get to know each other a little bit, and then we'd start sneaking into each other's shows. So I've known David and a lot of the Theater Oobleck people all that time, and who all of it, David and I have stayed tight, because David always shows up. So, my friend, David Isaacson.
Welcome to our evening-long program on oral surgery. I'm going first, so I'm the amuse-bouche of your evening-long program on oral surgery.
And I really got to admit, this whole benefit thing kind of snuck up on me. I've been really busy, and I really wanted to do something specific, something apropos for the occasion. So what I got here is I printed out the history of dentistry from Wikipedia. But there are a lot of interesting facts in here, so I think it's going to be okay. Well, first of all, there's one of those disambiguations to make it clear that the article is about the invention and development of dental techniques and practices, and not about the 1975 Emerson, Lake and Palmer album, History of Dentistry.
So here we go. Historians of the Pleistocene surmise that the very first act of dentistry
occurred when a caveman placed his foot on another caveman's chest, threaded some glyptodon tendon around one of his molars, and yanked!
But this revolutionary act came relatively late in the prehistoric era. For the vast length of prehistory, there was no dentistry. There were broken teeth and rotting gums, of course, but no dentistry, because the need for dentistry had not yet entered into human consciousness. Pain, the physiological conception of grievous hurt, pain was conceived of as a constant of the human condition, and not yet something that could be ameliorated or done away with entirely. Human activity was until that point a product of the twin desires for food and sex. And it was not until early humans, quite by accident, discovered the possibility of relieving pain that a new desire was activated and became a third principle
on which to organize day-to-day existence, a principle which came to eclipse the other two, as a painless existence served as a prerequisite for all other bodily requirements, the foundation on which pleasures of all sorts could flourish. Historians argue how the relief of pain was discovered, whether it was by rubbing wild onion on an open wound, or chewing on a mandrake root, or inhaling the smoke of a burning laurel branch. But as soon as human beings were able to take some anodyne action to relieve pain, that action not only heralded the birth of dentistry, but also the birth of psychology, philosophy, and theology. Psychology? Before this, pain was completely integrated in what would then pass for the sense of self. Pain was a feature, not a bug of existence. But as soon as the consciousness arose that pain was something that could be manipulated or even turned off like a valved spigot, a duality formed in the human conception of itself.
I am this thing that moves and eats and fucks, but there is this other thing that is both part of me and not part of me, and I call that other thing pain.
Philosophy? From this new sense of duality, all other dualities grew. Suddenly, we had a mind-body problem. Suddenly, a new conception of the self and an other, whereas the other before had been merely an extension of one's own need for food or sex. The caveman now needed a construct to account for the self and the other and the relation between the two, what Hegel, some millennia later, would call a dialectic. Theology. Pain was something we could act on, yes, in a positive way, but it was also something that acted on us, a mysterious and largely invisible force. And from there was a hop, skip, and jump to conceive of demons and angels that might invisibly act on us as well. Early human beings developed a hierarchy of pain. The most painful thing, of course, being childbirth, followed by being trampled by a giant sloth, followed by, yes, dental pain. Early human beings came to identify a broken teeth with an extreme pain that interfered with the ability to carry out food gathering and sexual intercourse. But here is where the true miracle of that first cave act of dentistry is revealed. For now, 3 insights. First, the ability to relieve pain. Second, an identification of damaged teeth with a particular extreme torment. And third, the new awareness of the other. This troika of insights acted in concert to form the idea that one might be able to relieve pain, and specifically oral pain, in others. I place this cooling mud on the abscess of your inner cheek. I place these coca leaves on your tongue. I pull this cracked cuspid from your blackened gum. In short, the birth of compassion, leading in a jagged line to what we now conceive of as civil society, and to what currently passes as organized healthcare coverage for this country, the hundreds and thousands of GoFundMe pages that meet the medical expenses for so many artists and poor people.
All of that from a Paleolithic act of empathy, the yanking of a caveman's tooth.
And now, at this point in the article, it indicates that there was some contention among the various Wikipedia editors. And so this next part, I think, was written by a different editor. With the development of new dental techniques, crude stone picks for cleaning and scraping, came a new and less benevolent strain of dentistry. The rise of cosmetic dentistry is illustrated in the fossil record by teeth chiseled and shaped to mimic, the archaeologists surmise, those of the formidable saber-toothed tiger. And these chiselings, rather than relieving pain, surely induced it. It is from these early cosmetic practitioners that the cruel tradition of the sadistic dentist took root in the human consciousness, as manifested in modern times by Laurence Olivier in Marathon Man, Steve Martin in Little Shop of Horrors, and Dr. Tim Watley on Seinfeld. And now I think it's going back to the first editor. But hey, 4 out of 5 dentists agree that despite the popular mythos of the sadistic oral surgeon, dentistry is at its heart, it remains what it was in the Pleistocene, an act of charity, an act of love. And just as the 28 more or less teeth of the human mouth work collectively to tear, grind, and masticate a stalk of asparagus or gristly pork, we collectively, inspired by a prehistoric act of dentistry, gather in rooms like this one for common, benevolent causes. And then there's a list of references, sources, and further links to Glyptodon anatomy, George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, and Laurence Olivier films. I encourage you to go and click on all of these links for further amazing Wikipedia explications of knowledge and adventure.
All right, so Blair Thomas is going to come up. And before there was Theater Oobleck, there was Igloo Theater. And Igloo Theater was in the space that became Theater Oobleck on whatever that fucking address was there, Broadway. And there was a period of time where Paula Killen came to live in one of the little rooms behind Igloo Theater, and Cheryl Tripp came to live there, and Blair Thomas came to be the business manager. And I was in the little theater company, and Blair and I met in the lobby, which means I've known Blair longer than anybody here except my brother. So Blair is a wonderful presence, and if you don't know, please come out and set up your stuff. I'm just talking here so you can. If you don't know Blair's work, you really should, and you're about to. But Blair Thomas, the magical puppeteer. So Blair Thomas.
I had learned by that time to allow for anything. Don't predict. Then again, I had to ask myself, can everyone be wrong except for a few people I know be right? You can't deny your own experience. You are challenged all the time. One result of wars in other countries was a vast increase here in the amount of aspirants. It may be too much to call them barbarians, but standards have gone down. I thought, if a lot of people disagree with me, I better watch out. I have to allow for the possibility of being wrong. I was disturbed. And I was made insecure. And there was my security, security with myself. My confidence was always being challenged. I was always feeling a little shaky. But you can't deny your own reaction. Though sometimes you can feel that maybe there's something wrong with your own reaction. More than one person came to me and said, "Finally, I see what you see." The truth will come out. Eventually, people will see. At the same time, there was a fear cultivated among people. Let us not be left behind. In the past, the best minds have been left behind by the next generation. A kind of litany. You can't see beyond your own time. After a certain time, you can no longer keep up. I had that fear. I had that fear too. I was kept nervous. I don't want to exaggerate. The pain was not exquisite, but nobody likes to be made insecure. I thought, not being old enough yet, and not having had enough experience yet, that perhaps this state of affairs would continue for the rest of my lifetime. Can't be out of step. If I'm out of step, it doesn't mean I'm right. The truth might come out. Eventually, people will see.
feel free to come on in and grab a seat if you're lingering by the door. And now my friend Chris Dyer is going to come out. And me and Chris are buddies in a lot of interesting ways. But we used to meet up every once in a while in the morning. And Chris would say to me, he'd say, you know, you can talk about whatever you fucking want to talk about, but don't talk about your cars or your relationships. Chris Dyer.
Good job. Thank you. All right, this is a poem that I wrote about 20 years ago called Beau Walking, and it's for Beau. A few references here. Lefty in the poem refers to one of Beau's great characters, Lefty Fizzle, who's an old, crazy, washed-up vaudevillian, and he's got a vaudevillian trunk with him. The Bugman is early character of Beau's for some of his one-man things. Anyway, for Beau Walking. Hey Lefty, let's you and me take a walk to the billiard hall and stroke a couple of them candy orbs across the green sea to harbor. And afterwards we'll head for that park by the slim shore, and you lather a dither about the old guy hunched and scowled about some damn thing or another at the picnic table by that twisted oak where crows caw and flap. Did you know him, Lefty? The Bugman, nay biker, tumbled from your musty vaudevillian trunk, left ajar in some dank basement many evictions ago. And now he's about self-discourse and bug-eyed concentration. Ants, skittering scratched and pocked terrain, speaking unspeakable lonesomeness, but you don't want to deal with it now. They call me the Bugman because I eat them, he said some years ago in some saturated saloon, just before you stuffed him in the trunk and took him on tour. And as we walk, should afternoon sunlight sparkle the trees, or should we stroll in gray, chilly gloom the park hours? I absolutely love my false teeth. I got them all taken out. You don't have to floss. I didn't floss, and I advise you to floss, but you probably won't, because I was advised to.
Yeah, it's getting good now. People are giving advice. So, I have known my brother Chris longer than any of you fuckers. And, I actually thought that there's 4 Chris's on this show, and I thought of putting all 4 in a row, but it would probably overwhelm me. My brother Christopher is one of my favorite people in the world, and I have often thought we could have just flipped a coin and done each other's lives, because our lives are quite different, and yet they really overlap in these pretty amazing ways. And whenever I do Beckett pieces, which is often, I remember the first Beckett productions I did with my brother Chris. And anyway, here's Christopher O'Reilly.
So Beau calls me up and says, I'm doing a fundraiser. I can give you 10 minutes, and I'm billing you as a punkster. A month later, he calls me and asks, how's it going? I'm going to need 15. I'll give you 12, and I'm billing you as a storyteller. Well, finally, last week he calls me, how's it going? I need 20. I found lots of good stuff. 13 and a half. That's my final offer. Oh, and I'm billing you as a pain in the ass. Back in the day, the three of us, Mom, Beau, and I, gathered around the dining room table at Lincoln and Montrose, reading Endgame and Under Milkwood and creating dreams. Captain Cat, the retired blind sea captain, asleep in his bunk in the sea-shelled, ship-in-bottled, ship-shaped, best cabin of schooner house, dreams. Remember me, Captain? And the long drown nuzzle up to him. From where you are, you can hear their dreams. Mom? I can hear you, Mom. I really miss playing Scrabble with you. Oh, don't worry, honey. I'm playing Scrabble in heaven now. I just scored a triple word on joyful with a triple letter on the J. I can't wait for my next turn. Well, what about Pinochle, honey? Are you still playing without me? Sorry, Mama, but we can no longer play Pinochle. It's not that we can't deal without you. It's that we can't deal with Trump. Deep in December, it's nice to remember, although you know the snows will follow. It was deep in December when we set out for another revival of the Fantastics, to another theater in another town, props and platforms in tow. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind ripped our platforms from the pickup truck which we were driving. Our stage and our dreams were sent crashing to the pavement below. And then it began to rain. Soon it's gonna rain, I can feel it. Soon it's gonna rain, I can tell. And that night, as pieces of our broken stage and pieces of our broken dreams lay scattered on the road, it began to rain. Rain pell-mell. But on opening night, with dream and platforms mended, I, Matt, held Louisa in my arms as our duet ended. Deep in December, it's nice to remember the fires of September that made us mellow. Two young entrepreneurs sat in a Seattle coffee shop years ago, sipping their coffee, dreaming of richer roast and even richer riches. Waking from his reverie, one of them exclaims, "Let's start a chain of coffee houses. Let's feature organic and gourmet coffees. That way we can charge double." The other jumps in, "Yeah, and we'll slow roast it, sell it in small batches, and package it in small vacuum bags. That way we can charge triple." Great idea. What shall we name it? Something's brewing. Hallowed grounds. We need something more cosmic, like Starbucks. That's it. We'll call it Starbucks. The coffee can be the star as long as we get the bucks. Beau, as you know, is synonymous with the fringe. So if this is a Beau fundraiser, you might say it's a fringe benefit. What can a Broadway musical actor have in common with the fringe? You may ask yourself, and I can hear the doubters now. The closest he's ever come was when he was in Oklahoma and sang the Surrey with the fringe on the top. Wait a minute, man. Don't forget, back in the 60s, man, I was a hippie at Loyola, man. Far out. I wore black suede boots with the fringe on the top. There's a great picture of Beau pushing Mom down the street in a wheelchair. Long white manes of hair flowing from both of them. You may disagree with what's in our heads, but never with what's on our heads. Our family loves its hair. But believe it or not, both Beau and I were bald ones. Yeah, I shaved my head for Daddy Warbucks, and he shaved his head, actually several times, for Thomas Merton. And I'm sure Beau can commiserate with this next story. The world was my oyster, but where was the pearl? Who'd dream I could find it in one little girl? Yet something was missing I never quite knew. I knew all right. Something was missing. My hair. I had shaved my head every day during a 3-week run, but now the show had ended and it was still missing. I was panicking. Week after week, and my hair was still not growing back. What have I done? But one day, I was finally able to comb my hair once again. Oh, I smiled into the mirror, and like Annie, this story would have a happy ending after all. Yes, dreams are for wishing, but dreams can come true. That someone is no one but you. My German-Irish parents honored their ancestors by naming their children after them. They had lots of children and needed lots of names. After considering Irish saints and Teutonic legends, they finally turned to the Bard for inspiration. Dad was directing Shakespeare at the Court Theater, and subsequent names would correspond to that season's repertoire. The Taming of the Shrew begat Kate. Henry V begat Jamie. Richard III begat Edward. And Henry IV, parts 1 and 2, begat Henry. Well, I guess that since Henry was actually Henriette, a girl, they didn't have the heart to name her Falstaff. It's a good thing The Merchant of Venice was years later. Could you imagine Shylock O'Reilly? But sadly, for every Shakespearean comedy, there is a Shakespearean tragedy. And Beau, I fear, is truly a tragic figure. More foreboding than the appearance of the ghost of Hamlet's father, Beau's birth followed both the tragedy of Richard III and the life and death of King John. Richard John O'Reilly is just an apparition. No wonder he prefers Beau. I
be equally as willing for a dentist to be drilling.
Oh, I'm sorry, boy.
Than to ever let a woman in my life. A patient man am I, of no eccentric whim, who likes to live his life free of strife, doing whatever he thinks is best for him. Just an ordinary man. But let a woman in your life, and you invite eternal strife. Strife, indeed. Dress rehearsal, no Eliza Doolittle. Leading lady laryngitis, pardon my alliteration. My fair lady, without my fair lady. A patient man am I. No, not that night. There I was, an impatient man. Professor Henry Higgins truly eating his words and desperately wishing for a woman in my life. Before he can enter heaven, a man is interrogated by St. Peter in front of the pearly gates. Did you go to church every week? The man timidly replies, not exactly. Did you at least go to church once a month? The man guiltily replies, not exactly. Did you ever go to church? The man proudly replies, yes, I went to church every Christmas and Easter. Pleased with his answer, the man hopefully replies, may I go into heaven? St. Peter damningly replies, not exactly. You may go to heaven and every Christmas and Easter. The rest of the year, you can go to hell. During the final act of what truly was a long day's journey into night, I would hold court at my kitchen table, delivering my speech of a lifetime, all the while sipping from my omnipresent whiskey and smoking cigars. Well, in order to prevent cigars and cigarettes from turning into fires, they were extinguished in ashtrays containing water. However, one night, props inexplicably also placed my wooden matches into the wet ashtray. And while unsuccessfully trying to light my cigar, wet match after wet match, I successfully delivered my speech, recounting what a great Shakespearean actor I, James Tyrone, had been. The fault, dear Brutus, lies not in our stars, but in ourselves. But what I wanted to say that night was, the fault, dear Brutus, lies not in ourselves, but in our props. Finally, I got my damn cigar lit. But then, while triumphantly finishing my speech, I added insult to injury. I reached for the ashtray, missed it, and instead triumphantly plunged my cigar right into my glass of whiskey. And so, as I rose from the table, I summoned what little pride remained. I raised my glass in salute to this long day's journey into nightmare, and while swallowing my pride, along with my foul, cigar butt flavored whiskey, I delivered my closing line. Oh well, it's a late day for regrets. I regret that I may have exceeded my time. I beg your forgiveness if, like Bottom in A Midsummer Night's Dream, I have made an ass of myself. thank you for your patience. And speaking of patience, Beau needs your help. It's time to put money where your mouth is, or in this case, where Beau's mouth is. I arrived this evening with tongue-in-cheek, indentured to Beau's jaw-dropping fundraiser. I pray that I have not put my foot in my mouth, nor gummed up the works, as I sank my teeth into it. And so, Beau, long life, long hair, strong coffee, and strong teeth, and one to groan on.
Quick O'Reilly. Now we're gonna crooked mouth. I'm not gonna use it. But thank you.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah.
Martin is our sound person.
Margaret! Leo's moving all the stuff around. Marlena's in the lights. Links Hall's decided to have us out of the kindness of their heart.
Yes.
Very kind. Links Hall folks.
So close.
So close, said the accordion player. So we used to have a band called My Sister, and the whole Blair was in that band, and Katie was here somewhere, and Jenny and me. And one of the slogans of that band was music with teeth for people with gums. And this band is called The Crooked Mouth. So one of my friends in the lobby said, you know, you got a thing with the fucking mouth.
It's
Struck in the
true.
oral phase.
Are we good? All right, enough talking.
1, 2, 3.
He got it twice. He likes the love of me and then he calls it spice. Still love follows me like a dog in the fall. Love follows me like a dog in the fall. I fall for to me, the man at the door. Hold the key, the guy chain. He's not my lover. He's not my pal. He's a plain and all the bunker that was going to Johnson. I swallowed that. It's hot and I'm busted.
the monitor back here, Margaret?
Margaret. And can we just get a little more hope in the culture?
Use your little iPad for
Margaret.
You know, T. Roy wrote this next song. He wrote it right before the end of the last election. And you listen closely to the words. Ooh, you'll see.
Yeah.
The other one.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So-called hits kind of thing when people request. I actually wrote this song at the old Links Hall, strangely enough. And this song is really permission. Because I think every single one of you, and I'm going to look all around, everyone, young and old, you're making stuff all the time, and it doesn't even matter what it is, just the fact of making anything, you're doing it right, in my opinion. So that's what this song is. It's about permission. Are we ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you.
switch gears. And even if you have this emotion, you're still doing it right, in my opinion. The world inspires this emotion quite a lot.
Oh, yeah.
This is a song written by Matt Test, who used to be in the band and is our good pal. Are we ready? Mm-hmm. Let me just think for a second how it goes. Oh yeah, that's right. Thank you. I'm in multiple bands and it becomes mush. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Walking on the basso. Joe.
This is working right.
It's always the little instruments that cause you the most trouble. The tiny little violins, the tiny little spoon that you can barely hold in your baby finger. Those are the ones that just go out of tune whether you're looking or not.
This is a song about time travel, first thing in the morning.
Joey of the past says he's in the future, 'cause that's where he's gone. From this time to warn future Joey of a now gone wrong. Alarm clock says it's 6:02 a.m., but he's from 5:55. Wants to fix the present in the time he has arrived. Joey of started betting now the present's in the past. And all of them might disappear if he doesn't get home fast. Will these 7 minutes be enough to fix what future Joey's done? If Joey of the present sleeps through 641. Joey of the past, he's a man for his time. Wants to save us all, but we will probably be fine. We'll see. But the future's not returning. Present has no clue. Past is standing all alone with only one thing to do. A message to the future. Joey, hey, yeah, it's me. I had to go, but I need your help, dude, seriously. I'll go back to bed, follow when you can, and do this for us, please. Wake me up at the real 6:33.
Jeff Query on the accordion. Steve Roy Marks on the little ukulele.
Because you don't know which Troy's gonna do the next one.
All right. Now we're getting somewhere.
All right, this is a funky little tune, funky ukulele tune about the people who are freshly in love.
Okay, we get it, you're in love. And it's a love that goes on and on. And we can tell 'cause you go on and on and on and on and on and on. How many parts? How many songs? How many times for to sing along? How many eyes that cross across wish it never had happened.
Ready? A one, two, a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Losing was just winning. Who knows how you got there, what you have, a bottle of life full of looking and laughter. How much after? I know, it wasn't the weather, so don't shit and terrible. The weather, we've been living in like Jesus Christ himself has been spitting out my tears. Who knows what may come out of this way? The land of the fortune, the heavenly sound of sashing. Wake up all alone and feeling strange. All alone and feeling strange. You're inside the limbo. Take a night, twist that part in the ring. The way that you feel, dancing in your eyes like a thousand tiny islands. Each one a river of misery, and you know it doesn't matter. I know. It wasn't the weather, the dark shit and terrible, dark shit and terrible, dark shit and terrible. Yeah. Does anybody have any water that doesn't have anything wild in it that they could pass up here? Because I'm losing something in the throat there. What are we gonna do now?
Oh, here comes some water.
Oh, water, thank you, Will. Yeah, no, thank you. Oh, no.
Okay, what do we got?
You got that Russell song.
Oh, yeah. Well. This is going very well. I'm having a good time.
So we're gonna do a few more and then we'll take the break for the cake.
The break for the
For
cake.
the break for the cake. So somehow when I described the cakes, it was gonna be 5 cakes, and it was 7 cakes, and it was 12 cakes. And it has been said that I will say anything.
Thank you.
Thank you, and it's pretty much true. Yeah.
A 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ross of the bones, let the wheel Rustle the bones, rustle the bones, let the wind do the bearing and the crews make it home. Rustle the bones, rustle the bones, let the wind do the bearing and the crews make it home.
Who takes responsibility, runs around like a maniac. We just finished the Rhino, and there were plenty of those people around. I consider Beau to be one of those people who make something happen, the people here at Links Hall, the people at Constellation, good old Stefan Brun, who's not here tonight, the people that run around and make something happen at great personal cost. The song is called Superhero Man. I want to.
capo run, a capo run.
All right, we're going to take this opportunity once again to thank all the people who worked on making this benefit possible, and for Beau with his ongoing drama of the dental surgery, which those of us who care about him hear about every time, over and over and over. It's always like, yeah, I was in the chair for 4 hours today. Yeah, I was in the chair for 6 hours today. Today I was in the chair for 7 hours. It's just so horrifying. It's the worst. Yeah, why don't you get those teeth pulled, Beau?
You know, the only one who ever hears of me is Kenny, because she calls me every day to check. Because she's such a nice friend.
That's correct.
Who said that? Me, Leo. Leo sits there hearing about it too. You can hear about it. All you gotta do is move into my house, I'll tell you.
All right, you ready? Capo?
Capo
Okay,
runs
this
over.
improbably is a rock and roll song that was written by Bertolt Brecht and Jenny Magnus with a translation by Stefan Brun, so go put that in your pipe and smoke it. Here we go, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. To the old man's staggering toothless mouth from its earthen workshop, and the dog and its fish for love still barks and cringes, rubbing against the legs of the runaway dog. Beyond the village, the elves still bound their vibrations gracefully to the man abusing a child, while all murderers, blinding dust commits your blood, so traces burning and mild. And at night, the deep voluptuous sighs of a woman, but at night, with fear, while in the hand of some apple nibbles from the tree for a thunder each year. Oh, just the rockets and glinted as father tosses it to the ground. And I believe there were several children while the troops marched through the cities to the band's martial sound. And our mothers are up for a sail, and our sons throw themselves down the drain. For the crew of the sinking ship will be glad to be trained all rock, and all the dying and wants of this world is to fight. That he may have once again and again and again. Third crow of his cock. The places of nature. The places of nature. The places of nature. Okay, this next song is what the face you need to make. It's the yes face. Are we ready?
Sure.
I hope we're ready for everything.
We're ready for all of it.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Stop.
That wasn't ready.
That wasn't quite it. I wonder if all of you know that Beau's real name is Richard. Did you know that? Beau's a nickname. And Richard has some diminutives.
Wow.
There's Ricky. There's Richie. There's a chair for you to sit in, Beau.
The dick chair.
Go sit over there, little Dickie. Little Dickie, go sit over there.
You know, some people lose their jobs over things like this. The shaming mechanism.
We
Go
do need
sit
you
over
to
there.
sit down though, Beau.
No.
Something's gonna
Something's gonna
happen.
happen.
Yes. Are we ready? Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Ooh! Oh yeah! Oh yeah! already the third time we've ever played that song.
It's hard to do a secret song when the person's in the band.
Yeah. The 2 rehearsal bows missed because of dental appointments. We learned that song.
And now I see how our time's been spent.
All right, now we're going to do Yes Face.
Yeah.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this next song is a true story. You ready? He was not. That was correct.
That was just me shouting.
That was correct.
That was correct. I was just
I know
shouting.
mine.
I wasn't shouting because it was incorrect. I was shouting because I was very excited about the way it sounded. I'll probably do it again.
Here we go.
Now you did it.
Sound good. He was like a man. He was like a big man. The long girl threw his back across the page. It was his fault and dry. It was so vital. He knew this man full of ammunition for that big dude was a shit to fall down the road with my damn child. Oh, Johnny, 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 Johnny Grace. He'll chase you so up and let you dance down for days. Your daddy is waiting for you right around the bend. You're gonna be up with my daddy. Just his title. He's a little bit further. He's to get away kind of clever. Anybody got to take your eyes off of that smile? He's like a man. He's like a big man. How about that? That's only leather. You're gonna do style all together. Never secret hopefulness so brave. If I were something to share his pitch, there would be a way to get away from it, and that might be the able from the game. Oh, Johnny, 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 Johnny Blaze. He'll chase you so often that you can't down the fence. Your daddy is waiting for you right around the bend. You're gonna be up with your daddy. Johnny, 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 Johnny Crazy. He'll chase you so often that you can't stop the pace. Your daddy is waiting for you right around the bend. You're gonna be up with a bad, 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 bad. All right, one more. If you know this one, please sing along. It's Venice. This was a song written by our very good friend Diane Izzo, no longer with us. It's just a goddamn elegant song. Go.
on this way forever. But I reckon we're gonna get tired, like a mule under a man. We've been kicking him too hard. Our backs are aching and they're shaking, and our boots are breaking apart. Our tiny little hearts rose and rose too when we found the way to land. And the land was an open wound. So Daddy grew in the soft and golden dark. With your soft dust hands and clapping, and your skin like elder bark. You're so delicate, delicately hard. So I met the boys from Venice in a canal and the moon, where we hold ourselves like statues in a gondola under the moon. And we're laughing, till we're pulling ourselves apart. With death in our drunken bodies and Venice in our hearts. I inherited your gaze, the way my thinking goes down. My seat's getting misconstrued, and my tongue's all devilled down. And I'm a ball with my strings are loosened, and my skeleton's dancing out. I'm the organ grinder's monkey, in the chamber crowd. Well, I'm bored now. Still, I miss the boys from Venice in a canal and the moon, where we hold ourselves like statues in a gondola under the moon. And we're laughing, till we're pulling ourselves apart. With death in our drunken bodies and Venice in our hearts. We're careful, but we're Wasn't the angel dressed in rouge? Our hopes and winds grieved in the organ room. So Daddy grew in the soft and golden dark. With your sawdust hands and clap, and your skin like elder bark. You're so elegant, elegantly starred. I met the boys from Vegas in a canal and the moon, where we hold ourselves like statues in a gondola under the moon. And we're laughing, till we're pulling ourselves apart. With death in our drunken bodies and Venice in our hearts. Broken heart. We're gonna have a break. There's cake. The bar is open, and the best of acts are still to come. So Christopher Pyatt and Calvin Forbes and Barry Cole, and closing it out with 80 Foot. So please stick around. If you've seen some good stuff so far, you'll see even better coming up. And if you didn't have a chance to donate, you can put it in a hat. I've been going through a thing where, I've never received a text, and it's not going to change now. But over the last few days, I haven't even wanted to fucking type or mimeograph. I just want to write everything on a napkin. Going backwards. So one of my friends said, "Can you bring a box to keep the money safe?" And I said, "No, but I'll bring a hat." Pass it around. Just pass it around. So it's my pleasure now to introduce
Christopher Pyatt. And some of you guys know Chris's work in paper mache. And Chris I've known off and on for many, many years. And about 2 years ago, we ran into each other on the street after running into each other on the train. We started having little conversations, and I really enjoyed those conversations. And then I went to see Chris's paper mache, which is great if you've never got to see it. You can go see that. And so I said to Christopher, I said, we're doing this thing, do you want to come and do it? He said, yes, but keep reminding me. And so I did, but I didn't really have to remind him very much because he's an ace and he's a show-up guy. Here he is, Christopher Pyatt.
Good evening. It is an honor to be here. And I just want to say before I start that this is not really, it's only like tangentially, tenuously connected to literally anything. But I also feel as though I inherited this aesthetic affectation genetically from a bunch of people in this room. So just fucking deal with it, you show business weirdos. Okay, Marlena? Hit it. Thank you. What does it take to change past patterns? To open up new possibilities in your relationships? To lay new track? First step is to create a vision. A vision brings the future to life and provides a structure for laying new track. Declaring your vision is an act of freedom that releases you from your past. Consider your relationship to communities, local and global, your relationship to others, at home or where you work, and your relationship to yourself. Do these relationships work the way you want them to? What's working in your relationships? What's missing in your relationships? In your relationships, what kind of difference are you making? What kind of difference could you make? Are you bringing your passion and your commitment to your relationships? Though most of us are unaware of our past patterns, we continue to reproduce them, much like a self-fulfilling prophecy. In this way, we keep running over the same track, producing the same result. If you keep going the way you're going, you can only end up where you're already headed. So, believe it or not, Links Hall, I, Christopher Pyatt, erstwhile gumshoe sleazeball arts journalist and Northside C-list Bolshevik matinee spoken word artist, did not actually write any of those words myself. I can only take credit for transcribing them from a mid-1980s infomercial for a new age human potential for-profit organization called LifeSpring. LifeSpring was a breakaway movement from EST, E-S-T, EST. Sometimes all lowercase, sometimes all uppercase, sometimes just the E is capitalized EST, E-S-T. Stands for Erhard Seminars Training, or rather it stood for that before it was rebranded as the Forum, and then Landmark Forum, and then Landmark Education, and finally its current iteration, Landmark Worldwide. EST was born out of the human potential movement that germinated and grew out of 1960s counterculture. Influenced largely by philosopher Abraham Maslow's assertion that the arc of the human experience curved toward self-actualization. The human potential movement was clearly destined to become a scamtastic money pit for scumbag shysters to prey on the vulnerable. Now, in its heyday in the 1970s, EST was both very trendy to partake in and very trendy to make fun of, just like fondue or disco. The initial course experience was a 60-hour seminar that stretched over 2 weekends. Participants were famously not allowed to wear watches or go to the bathroom, except during meal breaks. The stated point of these seminars was to help participants more fully and honestly live in the present and the future by purging demons from the past. Leaders would famously approach participants and scream at them in order to break down their presentational facades and induce breakthroughs to contact their truest selves. Today it sounds ridiculous and abusive, but at its peak, its celebrity champions and endorsers included David Geffen and Yoko Ono, Arianna Huffington, and John fucking Denver. John, sunshine on my shoulders makes me happy. Thank God I'm a country boy. Christmas with the goddamn Muppets Denver was a spiritual product of Est. The E in Est Erhard Seminars training was the last initial of Werner Erhard, a self-taught spiritual entrepreneur whose combined fascination with philosophy, the humanities, and Zen Buddhism crystallized as a business model after he took Dale Carnegie's famous public speaking course in 1967. Now, Dale Carnegie may have had a filthy rich sounding last name like Rockefeller, but he wasn't one of those Carnegies, and in fact, somewhat ironically, Dale was the veritable opposite. Born in 1888 in Missouri to impoverished farmers, Dale Carnegie's beginnings were the uncomfortably literal definition of dirt poor. While he had no athletic aptitude whatsoever, he discovered through nerdy extracurricular activities that he was a natural at public speaking. In debate and speech competitions, even in his rural community, Dale Carnegie flourished like a hothouse flower. When he graduated high school in 1906, though he was accepted into a local teachers' college in Warrensburg, his folks couldn't afford the $1 a day room and board, so Dale stayed at home with Ma and Pa and traveled daily to school on horseback. He would famously later recount that he spent his many horseback rides constantly practicing his speeches and refining his oratorical style that would win him several collegiate public speaking contests. Following a stint as a traveling salesman in Nebraska with the $500 he had saved up, he moved to New York in 1911 to make it as an actor. Carnegie was admitted to no less than the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, future training ground of William Powell, Lauren Bacall, Anne Bancroft, and Robert Redford. But after briefly touring as the leading man in the stage play, a proper Victorian melodrama and Broadway hit called Polly of the Circus, he became disenchanted and suspicious of a life on the stage. According to one biography of Carnegie, this happened when, quote, he became acquainted with several aging actors whose devotion to their calling brought only financial instability and precarious social standing. Unquote. Yet fellow acting students still sought him out as a tutor in public speaking. He pitched himself as a night class teacher at the YMCA and found not just his vocational calling, but his seat at the banquet hall table of Americana. Over the next few decades, as he tutored scores of business students and slowly tailored his curriculum to meet their needs, he also read hundreds of biographies of the world's greatest leaders, trying to find the unifying traits and tropes. These historical clues, combined with his own lived experience of how interpersonal skills can lift a person out of pauper's obscurity, culminated in the 1936 publication of his seminal text, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I must admit that in the year 2020, to my tired, cynical American ear, How to Win Friends and Influence People sounds like an instruction manual for douchebags, sociopaths, and cult leaders. But in 1936, staggeringly underemployed nation was desperate for earnest, straightforward, savvy advice on how to get a piece of that pie, baby. I'm of the belief that Dale Carnegie was a good faith actor. He wanted to use the tools that he had to help other people, and it made him very rich and very famous because his products were highly useful. And it's not really his fault that 3 decades later, Werner Erhard would take the legendary Dale Carnegie course and realize that he could make a fortune by charging people large sums of money to lock them in a room with strangers and scream at them about their unconquered childhood fears while their bowels and bladders were bursting. Est would eventually become landmark, and though controversial, it continues to thrive. But the Est/landmark offshoot, Lifespring, whose inscrutable empty mantras I read to you at the top of this essay, was eventually shuttered after numerous exposés in the press and academic studies pointed to mind control techniques in the training, as well as the landmark-derived business model of pyramid scheme-style recruitment. But the lawsuits from families whose members committed suicide after Lifespring training probably sealed the deal. The unspeakable taboo word that hangs in the air in these situations is cult. And I have to tell you, I have this unique place in my heart, this uncommonly tender soft spot for former cult members who speak out about what happened to them. To say, my brain was washed. This group took my money and my autonomy. They separated me from my family. They abused me, and they made me believe in the supernatural, and most crucially to say, and I let them. I allowed it. To say these humiliating things to the world is a colossal risk and a rarefied act of public service. And while some may disagree, I believe there is ample journalistic evidence that it is a harder sell and more dangerous feat than claiming a powerful but sleazy Hollywood producer demanded sexual favors from you. One of the key whistleblowers that helped shut down the activities of LifeSpring, a woman who subsequently joined the Cult Awareness Network and became an outspoken activist, risking her safety and relocating her home across the country as LifeSpring members actively hunted her down, was no less than the wife of a Supreme Court justice. Think of that. This woman was back in the news last week. Ginny Thomas, wife of Clarence Thomas. Ginny Thomas, fierce ex-cult member, apostate antagonist, and Tea Party pioneer, was in the news because she has reportedly compiled a list of potential government employees who will pledge their fealty and their fidelity to President Trump if he hires them to replace the recently fired nonpartisan civil servants who were purged from their career desks for insufficient brand loyalty. That's why Ginny Thomas was in the news last week, and that's why and how I learned everything that just came out of my mouth tonight. All this is to say that a brilliant person can have her brain washed and her life stolen by honest-to-Christ cult leaders, get it all back and risk everything to spend decades trying to prevent the same thing from happening to others, and still wind up a die-hard lockstep true blue soldier for Team Trump. That's what we're up against. And that's why tonight, I am thrilled to announce that this essay has been sponsored by, and my wardrobe and corrective lenses and transportation and lodging for this benefit for Beau tonight has been provided by the official Mike Bloomberg for President campaign. Mike Bloomberg 2020. All of the personal possessions you think you own, he actually already owns. So isn't it nice time you did something nice for him anyway? Thank you.
All right. Now, for about 7 years, I worked for Calvin Forbes in a way. He was my boss at the school. And at one point, I became the associate chair of the department. He was the chair, and I was the associate chair. And I would sit in this office and wonder what I was supposed to do. And weeks would go by, and I'd be sitting there. And every once in a while, Calvin would knock on the door, look in, see how I was doing, ask me how I was going. And then as the semester went on, and I really still didn't know what I was doing, finally he came into my office, and he sat down, and he looked right at me, and I thought, this is it, I'm gonna get fired. That the fact that I'm not really a professor, that I'm a charlatan who flunked out of high school, and can't really spell, all of this is gonna come out, right? And Calvin leaned forward, and he looked me in the eye, and he said, have you ever done any barbecuing? And from then on, I knew I could trust Calvin in any situation. So, you know, Calvin Forbes is a wonderful poet, and it's a pleasure to have him tonight. Calvin Forbes.
And of course, if you believe that, you believe anything. I'm going to read a couple of poems. The first one is called Mama Said. It was also recorded by Brent Marcellus and Kurt Allen. And you can decide for yourself later on whether Kurt does a better job or not. Mama said, the slice I ate, I want it back. Those crumbs I swept up, I'd like my share again. I can still taste it like it was. The memory by itself is delicious. Each bite was a small miracle, both nourishing and sweet.
I wish I had saved just a little bit. I know it wasn't a literal cake. It's the thought that counts. Like a gift that's not store-bought, making it even more special. Like a dream that makes you want to go back to sleep. You can't have your cake and eat it too, Mama said. I was defiant and hard-headed and answered, yes, I can too. The look she gave me said, boy, I hope you want a fool all your life. You have to be careful sometimes about what you say around me or maybe other writers, because I might write it down and I won't give you credit. And this is based on a conversation I heard walking down the street one day between two young ladies. It's called Girl Talk. We never dated. We fooled around. A few times we made out. Know what I mean? Then all of a sudden, he's in love with me. He was too weird. Has something like that ever happened to you? Some dudes are like people swear women are supposed to be. Yeah, so they figure saying they love you make you want to rip off your panties just for them. I forgot, I was at the subway stop, walking towards the subway stop, and I heard these two women talking, and I quickly wrote it down. As I say, the rest is history. So, one of the things Beau and I have in common is that we come from large families. I think Beau's is a little larger than mine. I come from a family of 8 children. And I'm number 7. And I had all these older brothers. And one of my favorite stories, when I asked my older brother one time, why did you join the Army? And he said, because you were born. And I said, whoa, what's up? And he said, where was I going to sleep? When you have 8 children, 10 children, one of the questions is, where are you going to put them all? So this is a fictional account, more or less fictional account of my brothers and I. It's called The Card Players. A 4th was needed, so one of the 3 invited a friend, and I came along as a spare in case a chair was empty, since I could fill in as easy as I could shout out a rhyme. As the jive flowed like the River Jordan, and Joshua and his trumpets sounded along, the winning cards slammed down on the table, and I laughed along with morning, noon, and night. My 3 big brothers, bold, smart, handsome. One slim as a stick of dynamite, the second solid as a linebacker, and the third crazy enough to fight them both, that they let it roll beyond talk. Treated me like a child even after I had my first. The 3 of them, ace, king, and wild card, and probably born within 4 years, as if daddy and mama were trying to break a record or win a bet about how many diapers a woman could change in a single day without cursing the hand God had dealt her. The odds were even until I came along later to tell their story. Thank you.
I do remember the first time I saw Barry Cole. I think it was the first time I ever saw her. She was performing, and it was at the Neo-Futurists. And it was a piece, Barry, where you had your hair pulled out like this, and they're clothespins, and your hair was like that. And then you began to speak. And the work was really powerful then. And what I've known over, because I've known Barry for a pretty long fucking time now, is that Barry's a peer of mine as a writer. That she writes something and I write something, and she writes something and I write something. And over years our work is in response to each other and talks to each other. And I have that with a handful of other people, but I definitely have it with Barry Cole, so it's always a pleasure to hear her new work. Barry Cole.
And I have to go get it. Wait, can I take this stool with the plastic on it? Okay. This is not the prop. Here is a run-on sentence, Beau. Because a run-on sentence can keep going and going and going, and that is what your mouth must do. It must keep going and going and going. And I rarely listen to the radio, Beau, and you don't need a mouth to listen to the radio, but you do need ears, and that's probably not new information for you or anyone else here, but regardless, I heard an ad for O'Reilly Auto Parts, and I thought of your mouth is what I'm saying, and the jingle goes, oh, 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 O'Reilly Auto Parts, and I thought, too bad, Beau, too bad you can't get parts for your mouth at oh, 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 O'Reilly Auto Parts. Because in my dream, that's exactly what you could do. And you wouldn't need to have to go to the dentist over and over for multiple appointments and hope they have a good magazine, because that's all you can hope for in terms of reading material at the dentist's office, because it's not a library with Catherine Mansfield or James Baldwin, etc., etc., but it might have People magazine, and then you can find out what is up with Brad Pitt these days, or what presidential candidates like to have for late night snacks. But there might be National Geographic, and that would be lucky because of the photos, obviously. And there might be some dental pamphlets in the waiting room, but don't look at those, because I have, and they're not nice to look at all. And probably the best you could hope for is a fish tank with real fish, but that's probably unlikely, because with everyone's teeth to maintain, it would take a very special dentist who would also be willing to take care of tropical fish too. But anyway, in my dreams, you wouldn't have to deal with any of that, because you would just go to O'Reilly Auto Parts, but it would be mouth parts instead of auto parts. And if your last name was O'Reilly, which yours is, they would give you mouth parts for free and easily install them also for free, and your whole family could go there too if they ever needed mouth parts or mouth part installation, and that would be a good deal because you have a big family, as you know, Beau. Sometimes, Beau, I have all kinds of outlandish ideas, and people say to me, ha, Barry, in your dreams. But what they don't know is that my dreams are great, and in my dreams, you, Beau, get tooth parts instead of auto parts, and all dentists dentist office, our libraries and theaters at night with koi ponds. And also, Beau, sometimes when you dream something up, that something actually happens. So watch out for that, Beau, in the best way, because look at this mouth I dreamed up in the 7th grade when we were assigned something called an exploration project. And I came home and I said, Dad, let's build a giant mouth with braces out of styrofoam and tinfoil and wire and paper mache and wood, and we did it. And I still have it. I still have it, and I brought it here. And here, there is a crooked mouth, and this is a straight mouth. I mean, not stray as in not gay, or straight as in straight laced, obviously, but aligned. Yes, aligned because of orthodontia. And isn't that a great word, orthodontia? Don't you think so, Beau? And if this mouth I made with my dad were a band, it would be called the Aligned Mouth. And then this event at Links Hall could not only be a fundraiser for your mouth, but also a festival of bands which all had the word mouth in them. That would be the link, Beau. That would be the link in Links Hall. Did you know, Beau, that my top teeth are very straight, but my bottom teeth are so crooked? So that's a little like I have two mouths in one. And also, Beau, when I was just in New Zealand last month, I went to a wine cave, even though I didn't drink any wine at all. I just went for the cave part. And when I was at the mouth of the cave, I thought of you. And then the next day, I went to the Maori Museum, and I met someone whose real name in real life is Penny Kiwi Kiwi. And Penny Kiwi Kiwi showed me some whale teeth, and I thought of you again, Beau, again. And then I went to the mouth of a river, and I saw some bungee jumping happening, and I did not think of you, Beau, when I saw the bungee jumping. I just thought, this is nuts. And we should never, ever do this, ever. People should not do this. And that was my opinion. And then I went to a rose garden in Wellington, and I kept saying to myself, well, 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 Wellington. Well, well, well. At the rose garden, there were some excellent roses with excellent names. Names like Simply Stunning, Easy Going, Double Delight, Golden Jubilee, Red Rhapsody, Mum in a Million, Golden Future, Glorious and Warmest Wishes. And then I thought of you again, Beau, because that's all good stuff in the form of roses. And maybe you could have the same good stuff, and not a in your dreams way, but in an actual way. And wow, this sentence is really, really running on and on. So I'm going to stop it now and end it now. We'll soon anyway, but not before I delight publicly in my recent revelation that the word teeth rhymes with bequeath and wreath and sheath. And I think all that bodes well for you and your mouth somehow. Call me overly optimistic, but I do think that bodes well, Beau. I definitely do.
So now 80 Foots is going to come out. Which means it's a real treat, because 80 Foots is the best. And if I wasn't in the best band in Chicago, I would have to say that the best band is 80 Foots. But I'm already in the best band in Chicago. But I do really love the 80 Foots, so here they are, 80 Foot.
At this Beau Funky event.
And that's the jokes.
That's it for jokes.
We're 80 Foots, and our name has nothing to do with mouths unless you think about a foot being in a mouth, which is gross. Unless it's a baby foot, which is really cute. That is the only appropriate foot to put in your mouth. Sorry, what's going on? It's right here. I brought the set list, everybody.
Thank you.
I just want credit for that. Thank you. This is going to take a minute, so. That. This. Ooh.
This is exciting.
This is great. Hey, it's the end of the night. And we're going to drag it out a long. I just need a stand.
Sorry, there's one there. One right there.
There we go. All right.
Oh, wait, I need to adjust something too.
This one was set just for me.
I know. Oh, we're not in tune at all. Listen, it's been a little while since we played out.
We're in.
We're in. Anyway, let's try. Anybody have an A? I'm gonna trust your A. Let's
Vicky has a tuner.
Yeah, well, you know.
Heather has an accordion.
All right. Great.
Sounds good.
Paul, tune.
Here we go.
January hates the whole goddamn town. Spits out the icy wetness of her black stain. On the pale corpses waiting in the cemetery ground. For the sorry living forced to face the sleet and rain. My poor old cat growls as she's wandering the floor, seeking only comfort from her mangy coat. A dead poet hound pacing right outside my door, cursed to fail to speak with his ethereal throat. There's a distant sulphur as the heat takes on. The clock on the mantel plugs right along. As the cards are shuffled, I can smell the stale perfume of a woman quiet, sickly, and long, long gone. The red jack of hearts and the black queen of spades are drawn. They sneer in rueful memory of their lost love's doom. January hates the whole goddamn town.
Some of you may recognize these songs from our spleen days back in Baudelaire times. These are actually all, or almost all, yeah, nope, almost all from the King of Rain episode of Baudelaire in a Box, Peter Ublik's long foray to the works of Charles Baudelaire. That was a T-Roy song, January. This one's going to be a Key Wrist song. And I'm going to go get
You have to
it.
get your thing.
Yeah.
This would be a good place for a joke.
I can't afford an accordion.
with a melodica, I believe.
Ooh. You ready?
Sure.
Okay, I do it. Okay, girl.
One might find you like a bright and white, while another dresses you in mourning for nature. Son, word to someone you are laid out on a stretcher. Say to another slither and bite. Say to another slither and bite. Oh, these God conjurers are in this. You give me such gastritis. You turn me into a backwards mind is. The saddest possible alchemist. The saddest possible alchemist. Through you I change gold to lead and heaven into hell instead. Behind the cloud of tangled shrouds I find the wounds of a friend long dead. Along celestial river dead. I weave tombs for the departed. La 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 la. The saddest possible alchemist. The saddest possible alchemist. I forgot to say in advance, that song this next song referred to the last song. This next song, the last song, it might be a little messy.
This is a Sad Brad tune. Sad Brad Smith. Sad he can't be here tonight, but it's commemorated in the tunes he wrote for this episode. This one is called Sympathetic Horror.
I mean, do you think he's okay?
He's probably fine. He just released a new album, actually, a little while ago. It's pretty good.
Really?
Yeah.
Finger picking.
From that dark and twisted sky, as bleak as what is yet to be, descending to your empty life, what thoughts, playboy, answer me? I love to live where it's dark and unstable. I'm not blind like often, chased from some happy fate. Oh, heaven's splitting at the seams. You are the meaning of my pride. Heavy grieving clouds will ride like the black hearses of my dreams. And your dark red rays reflect the hell my heart has come to expect. Love and respect from that dark and twisted sky, as bleak as what is yet to be, descending to your empty life. What thoughts, playboy, answer me? I love to live where it's dark and unstable. I'm not blind like coffee, chased from some happy field. Oh, heaven splitting at the seams. You are the meaning of my pride. Heavy grieving clouds will ride like the black hearses of my dreams. And your dark red rays reflect
Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Beau, for having us. I really enjoy playing with all you people, all you lovely friends. In case you ever wanted to hear these songs, not in this room, they're available on Bandcamp, on the Theater Oobleck Bandcamp page. Is that right?
That's
King
right.
of Rain album. You can hear them there. You can buy them there. This is another Sad Brad song called.
I mean, we should probably donate the proceeds to Beau if they do
Oh,
want.
sorry, yeah. I
Not
mean,
really a commercial enterprise.
if in the next 24 hours you buy a King of Rain album,
I mean, as good left.
yeah, let us know. This one's called Grieving and Wandering. Tell me, does your heart ever try to fly away, Agatha? Far from the green waters of this filthy city, to an island blue and magical. The waters of untouched virginity. Tell me, does your heart ever try to fly away, Agatha? See, the endless sea consoles us in our prisons. Demon taught the sea to sing, and the winds will let us listen to lullaby our greasy eyes to sleep. The sea, the endless sea, consoles us in our prison. Oh, how far off you are, and how far you'll always be, my sweet dream of paradise. Blue skies keep watch over our love, and each thing we've loved we're allowed to love twice. With a sinking heart can kiss the sky above. Oh, how far off you are, my love. Love was like heaven those early days, singing and kissing the sleep in the flowers. Behind the hills, above the violins played, carrying magic through moonlit hours. Love was like heaven in those early days. That innocence I'm always longing for isn't farther off now than my own end. No human cry can the past be restored. The song I sing will never bring it back again. Innocence I'm longing for. Innocence I'm longing for. Innocence I'm longing for. We've got one more Baudelaire, and then a little special something to close out the night. Oh, but I need. Hold on. strategically placed all my instruments at opposite corners of the stage, so you could all watch me walk around.
And when the show's over, the body of Osiris will be restored at the center of the stage. Let's say the night is heavy and somber, and some good neighbor out of mercy buries your body, the one we've all pondered, behind a old tree. Let's say the brooder stars, la la la, closing their heavy-lidded eyes. La la la. Then the spiders will weave her web. Then the snakes will have her babies. Throughout many an endless year, the wounded cry of those who hear wailing, wailing above your skull. And the shrieks of ravenous witches, lustful old men who clamor for riches, the whispers of bandits echoing through the road. Oh, baby, let's say the night's just a little bit somber, and some good neighbor drops by just to bury your body in a pile of old debris. Let's say the prudish stars have begun to close their heavy-lidded eyes, 'cause that's when the spider's gonna weave the web, and that's when the snakes can have all their babies. Throughout many an endless year, the cry flows the weird wailing, wailing above your skull. And the shrieks of ravenous witches, lustful old men who clamor for riches, the whispers of bandits echoing through the road. The whispers of bandits echoing through the road. The whispers of bandits echoing through the road.
Alright. I'm going to bring up my husband, Ira S. Merman.
And any of you crookeds who are going to join in, come on up right now.
Do you want me to say anything, or do you want to do it?
All right.
You take the... Yeah.
Yeah, we're all plugged in. All right. I've been casually suggesting that 8-Foot's let me do this for years and years. So very glad that Emmy casually suggested it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 81st foot.
The 81st foot. Yes, I've also been campaigning for that nickname for an equal amount of time. This is possibly one of the last things that Allen Ginsberg did in his life, and it's very long, so we've cut some of the parts. Chris didn't want to mention Nancy Reagan, so we won't mention Nancy Reagan, and then Ginsberg came in, diminished by many decades of death, dictated a few extra verses. But that wasn't really necessary because Beau O'Reilly is a literary personage in and of himself, but also I think in many ways there are several literary personages that I think of him channeling in one way or another, and Allen Ginsberg is certainly one of them. So hopefully Beau will come up and we can take this back.
Channel this.
So I'll just here. How do do we do this mic? So
Well, here, you can grab that
oh,
one.
you got
No,
it.
you-
Great.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll have one, and then between each one, maybe a thing at a time. Said the presidential skeleton, I won't sign the bill. Said the speaker, skeleton, yes you will. Said the representative, skeleton, I object. Said the Supreme Court, skeleton, what do you expect?
Said the demagogue skeleton, don't smoke pot. Said the alcoholic skeleton, let your river rot. Said the junkie skeleton, can't we get a fix? Said the big brother skeleton, tell the jerk for kicks.
Said the macho skeleton, women in their place. Said the fundamentalist skeleton, increase the human race. Said the right to life skeleton, a fetus has a soul. Said the pro-choice skeleton, shove it up your hole.
Said the Gnostic skeleton, the human form's divine. Said the moral majority skeleton, no it's not, it's mine. Said the Buddha skeleton, compassion is wealth. Said the corporate skeleton, it's bad for your health.
Said the downside skeleton, robots got my job. Said the tough on crime skeleton, tear gas the mob. Said the neoconservative skeleton, homeless off the street. Said the free market skeleton, use them up for meat.
Said the ecological skeleton, keep the skies blue. Said the multinational skeleton, what's it worth to you? Said the underdeveloped skeleton, we want rights. Said the developed nation skeleton, sell your vote for dice.
Said the World Bank skeleton, cut down your trees. Said the IMF skeleton, buy American cheese. Said the petrochemical skeleton, roar bombers roar. Said the psychedelic skeleton, smoke a dinosaur.
Said the Elizabeth Warren skeleton, I have a plan for that. Said the Mayor Blomberg skeleton, I'll bet millions it falls flat. Said the Bernie Sanders skeleton, free health care for all. Said the Donald Trump skeleton, let's all build the wall.
Said the Tom Sawyer skeleton, that's it, I'm through. Said the Mayor Pete skeleton, I guess that I am too. Said the Klobuchar skeleton, give my votes to Uncle Joe. Said the VP Biden skeleton, any calls for President Beau? Said the Democratic Party skeleton, slow down, don't go too quick. Said the DSA skeleton, liberals make me sick. Said the neoliberal skeleton, embrace the right to work. Said the anarcho-syndicalist skeleton, the bosses all are jerks.
Said the media skeleton, believe you me. Said the couch potato skeleton, what be worrying? Said the TV skeleton, eat sound bites. Said the newscast skeleton, that's all, good night.
Thank you all for coming. God bless.